He dumped a toilet in my backyard like it was nothing, and that was just the beginning. I live in one of those nice suburban neighborhoods. You know the kind. Cookie-cutter houses. Lawns trimmed within an inch of their lives. Everyone waves, but nobody really knows each other. It's all peace, quiet, and homeowner association threats. I moved here 3 years ago with my wife and our twin girls. We scrimped and saved for this house. I put in the hours, overtime, side gigs, all for that little slice of normal life, the kind with block parties and weekend barbecues. Enter Ron, my next-door neighbor. Ron is the human version of a neck vein about to pop. He's angry all the time, yelling at delivery guys, screaming at his wife. And his lawn? A battlefield of rusted bikes, broken patio furniture, and on one memorable occasion, an old bathtub turned sideways, collecting rainwater like he was building his own West Nile habitat. I tried to be friendly. I really did. Brought over brownies when we first moved in. He answered the door shirtless, grunted, and shut it in my face. So I kept my distance. But then, the trash started showing up. First, it was a few broken bricks tossed behind my shed. I figured they blew over in a storm, or maybe the landscapers moved them by accident. Then came the rusted barbecue grill. On my lawn, right next to the swing set. Babe, I called out to my wife, staring at it like a bear had wandered into the yard. Did we buy a grill at a yard sale I blacked out during? She laughed. No, maybe Ron's trying to make friends. Spoiler, he wasn't. Because next came the bags. 3 heavy-duty black trash bags. Torn open. Spilling God knows what into the grass. Plastic wrappers. Beer cans. Rotten meat trays crawling with maggots. My kids couldn't even play outside. That's when I knocked on Ron's door. Hey man, I said, keeping it friendly. I think some of your trash ended up on my side. He didn't say a word. Just stared. Then, slowly, shut the door. Not a slam. Not even a click. Just closed it. Like I was the problem. I tried the HOA. They sent a letter. He ignored it. Then they said it was a civil matter, which is HA speak for we don't want to deal with Ron either. Weeks passed, and the junk kept piling up. An old mini fridge, a rotted-out mattress, even a goddamn toilet, just placed there, like my property was the county dump. Every day I came home, it felt like a new insult had been gift-wrapped in mildew and left in my yard. It wasn't just about trash anymore. It was about disrespect. I couldn't let my daughters grow up thinking this was okay. That people could walk all over you and you just smile and take it. That's when I stopped being polite. I started taking notes. Photos. Videos. Dates and times. Every junk drop. I built a folder. And one night, after I stepped in what I hope was a discarded diaper, I opened it up and whispered, "Okay, Ron. You want war? Let's make it interesting." Because I wasn't just going to stop him. I was going to return everything he ever gave me. Piece by broken, rusted, urine-soaked piece. The night I declared war, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark at the kitchen table with a cold beer and a notebook full of junk Ron had dumped on me over the past 6 months. Everything from busted microwaves to a tire with a plant growing through it. Like he was trying to terraform my backyard into a scrapyard ecosystem. I knew I couldn't go to the police, not yet. I needed more. More proof. More pressure. More patience. Unfortunately, patience is not one of my core skills. So I got a little creative. The next morning, I dragged the busted mini fridge back to his side of the yard. Not on the driveway. Not tossed onto his lawn. I placed it, centered it, right in front of his garage door like a gift-wrapped middle finger. 3 hours later, it was back on my side, along with a shattered printer and a box of moldy VHS tapes labeled 1994 taxes. This wasn't junk anymore. It was psychological warfare. Then the complaints started. First, a note taped to my front door in handwriting that looked like a spider crawled through ink. You have too many weeds. HOA rules. Clean it up. We didn't have weeds. Next day, we got an email from the HOA saying someone had submitted photos of our backyard being used as a trash site. Which, I mean, technically yes, but only because Ron put it there. Then came the noise complaints. We got one for excessive shouting, another for power tools after hours. One night, I grilled steaks. The next morning, a complaint about chemical smoke from a grill. Outside, my wife just stared at the letter and said, "I hate him. I hate him so much I might write a novel about it." I put up a camera. Just one. Cheap. Hidden in a birdhouse pointing at the side fence. And wouldn't you know it, 2 days later, caught him red-handed dragging an old AC unit into our yard. He looked both ways. Tossed it under the hedge. Like some kind of greasy raccoon. I downloaded the footage. Backed it up. Twice. But I still didn't send it to the HOA. Not yet. Because I had an idea. Every time Ron dumped something on my property, I added it to what I started calling the mountain. I didn't throw it away. I didn't return it. I piled it. One corner of the yard became a monument to Ron's laziness. A twisted, horrifying art installation of broken toilets, half-melted lawn chairs, rusted-out lawnmower blades, and a ceramic clown bust that still haunts me in dreams. My kids called it Mount Crapmore. Ron, of course, hated it. I caught him staring out his kitchen window one morning, coffee in hand, just glaring at his masterpiece now staring back at him. Later that week, I heard the unmistakable whine of a drone. I stepped outside and yep, there it was, buzzing over my yard like a plastic hornet. I waved at it, smiled, even gave it a little middle finger salute. 2 days later, a zoning violation, unpermitted trash accumulation. I finally emailed the HOA with my evidence. Photos, footage, timelines. A very well-written explanation from my wife titled, "We are being harassed by a garbage goblin." They opened an investigation, which, as you might expect, means absolutely nothing. Then he went after my kids. The girls were drawing chalk art on the sidewalk. Happy stuff, unicorns, flowers. One of them drew a sun that looked suspiciously like Ron, but I didn't mention it. The next morning, the chalk was gone. Washed away. A faint smell of bleach still in the air. "You think he?" my wife said. I nodded. He did. She looked like she was about to go full Carrie. I had to hold her back from knocking on his door with a paint roller and an air horn. We didn't say anything. We just waited. Next week, I found dog poop in our mailbox. We don't own a dog. I wish I was kidding. He also reported my shed as an illegal structure. It's a shed. I bought it at Lowe's. It has a permit. And finally, just to round things out, he started parking his car halfway across my driveway. Not enough to get towed. Just enough to make me angle like a drunk forklift every time I backed out. This was no longer about trash. This was a full-blown feud. Hatfields and McCoys, but with fewer rifles and more passive-aggressive yard sabotage. But here's the thing. Ron didn't know I had backup. My cousin, Josh, works in landscaping. Legit company. Big trucks. Big equipment. I called him up. "Hey man, how would you feel about a little cleanup job?" Josh laughed. "Who died?" "Just my patience." The plan was simple. We'd wait until Ron left for work. Then we'd deliver his entire junk empire back to him. But not on his property. In it. As in, through his fence. Over his bushes. Into his actual backyard. His back gate? It didn't have a lock. We picked a day. Saturday. He always left for his weekly poker game around 10 a.m. Josh brought the crew. 2 trucks. For guys. And a forklift. We loaded every last piece of that rusted, reeking, shattered garbage pile onto his property. And when I say loaded, I mean artfully arranged. We rebuilt Mount Crapmore. But better. Taller. More symmetrical. More majestic. Right in the middle of his yard. Front and center. Like a tribute to his entire lifestyle. It took 2 hours. We left one camera running the whole time. And when Ron came home, I was watching live. The look on his face? I'd frame it if I could. He just stood there, frozen. Then he stormed back into his house. 5 minutes later, police sirens. And that's when things got really bad. Because what Ron did next? He went nuclear. The cops showed up fast. 2 squad cars, lights flashing like someone had just committed a real crime. I stood on my porch, arms crossed, trying not to look like the giddy lunatic I'd become. "Sir, are you the homeowner?" one of the officers asked. "Yep, that's me." He motioned toward Ron's backyard. "He's claiming you illegally dumped hazardous materials on his property." I actually laughed. Couldn't help it. "You mean his hazardous materials?" The cop didn't laugh. "Sir, we need you to come take a walk with us." So, we marched back there together. Me, two officers, and a growing audience of neighbors who clearly had no hobbies. And there it was. Mount Crapmore, Ron's Revenge Edition. The police took photos, asked questions, wrote notes on tiny little pads like they were investigating a body. Ron, of course, stood on his porch, arms crossed, smug as hell. "He trespassed," he said. "He stole my property and threw it back here. Look at this mess." "He dumped it on my yard first," I snapped. "Prove it." I almost lunged at him right there. Instead, I reached into my back pocket, pulled out a USB stick, and handed it to the officer. Security footage. Dated. Timestamped. Shows him dragging this crap across the property line. Over and over. The officer looked at Ron, then back at me. "We'll review it." And just like that, they left. No arrests. No tickets. Just a vague promise to follow up. That night, I found nails in my driveway. 3 of them. All facing up. Right where my kids run around barefoot in the summer. Next morning, my tires were slashed. All 4. I called the cops again. They took a report. Offered nothing else. Things went downhill fast after that. A week later, I woke up to find my entire front lawn covered in shredded paper. Hundreds, maybe thousands of pages. Torn, crumpled, dumped like snowdrifts all over the grass. Some of them had my name on them. Old credit card statements. Printouts of my Amazon orders. Bank offers. He'd been digging through my trash. Shredding my mail. Using my own information to humiliate me. I walked back inside, locked the door, and just stood in the hallway. I didn't even clean it up. Not right away. I felt violated. My wife saw me spiraling. "You're getting dark," she said one night. "I don't like this version of you." "I don't like him," I said. "I don't like any of this." She took my hand, squeezed it. "We can't let him win." But I already knew I was losing. The next blow hit me at work. I'm in IT. Nothing fancy, just managing servers for a mid-sized firm. Good job. Decent boss. Flexible hours. One day, I'm called into HR. They hand me a printed email. An anonymous tipster claiming I was stealing company data, using my access to leak information. I read it, then read it again. It was pure nonsense. The kind of paranoid garbage only a truly bitter man could come up with. Ron had researched my employer, dug into where I worked, found an anonymous contact email, and tried to ruin my career. Luckily, our security logs were airtight. I was cleared, but the stink lingered. People whispered. Managers watched me closer. The damage was done. At home, things weren't better. My girls wouldn't play outside anymore. Not after we found shards of glass scattered in the sandbox. My wife kept checking the cameras like she was waiting for a home invasion. Our house, a place we worked so hard to build, had become a war zone. And it was quiet. That was the worst part. Ron didn't yell, didn't argue, didn't even confront us directly anymore. He just smiled, waved when we drove by, like he was already winning, like he knew nobody would stop him. Then came the final straw. We went away for a weekend. Nothing big, just a cabin in the mountains. A short break, a chance to breathe. When we came back, our backyard was gone. Everything. The swing set? Gone. The garden my wife had poured her heart into? Torn up. Plants ripped out. Dirt scattered like a raccoon tornado hit it. Our patio chairs were stacked in a tree. And worst of all, my tool shed? Burned. Not fully. Just scorched on one side, like someone set a small fire and walked away. Police said there wasn't enough damage to prove arson. But I knew. He'd waited until we left. Slipped in. Destroyed everything. And then left just enough to make us doubt it. That's when something broke in me. Not snapped. Cracked. Clean. Quiet. Cold. I looked at the ruins of my yard. Then I looked up at Ron's house. He was watching from the window. coffee mug in hand, grinning. And that's when I said it, out loud, like a promise. Enough is enough. It's time for revenge. Revenge sounds cool when you say it out loud. It feels even better when you mean it. But when you actually try to do it, that's where things get complicated. Because here's the thing they don't tell you about revenge. It's a logistical nightmare. The day after we found our backyard destroyed, I sat down with a cup of coffee and a legal pad like I was prepping for war. Which, technically, I was. Across the top of the page, I wrote 2 words in all caps, Ruin Ron. Underneath that, a list of the dumbest ideas a human brain has ever produced. Option 1, buy a truckload of manure and dump it in his yard. Illegal. Expensive. Also, I'd have to smell it too. Option 2, hack his Wi-Fi. Change all his smart devices to play Nickelback on repeat. I work in IT, not in spy thrillers. Also, weirdly specific. Option 3, hire a mariachi band to play outside his house every morning at 6 a.m. Tempting. So tempting, but definitely harassment. I crumpled the paper and threw it across the room. Babe, my wife called from the kitchen. Are you plotting something? I stared at the ball of failure in the corner. Maybe. That week, I started researching everything I could about property laws, nuisance complaints, civil harassment, zoning ordinances, you name it. I read homeowner forums, Reddit threads, legal blogs written by lawyers who apparently hate punctuation. My browser history looked like a law student's mental breakdown. Eventually, I found something interesting, something beautiful, something weaponizable. Ron's property? It was technically part of a dual drainage zone, meaning there were runoff easements behind both our houses. Little patches of land controlled by the city. Guess who'd built his fence 2 feet past the legal line? Guess who had garden boxes, yard decor, a storage unit, and a whole chunk of his patio on public land? Ron. I printed the satellite photos, circled the easement lines, labeled everything in red Sharpie like I was solving a murder. But that wasn't enough. I needed more. Something solid. Something undeniable. So I called up my secret weapon, Josh, my landscaping cousin. You know permits? I asked him. He laughed. Do I know permits? My nightmares are made of permit paperwork. Cool. I need you to check something. Within 3 days, I had gold. Ron had done major backyard renovations a year ago. Retaining wall, deck extension, new shed, and he'd filed none of it. No permits, no inspections, no approvals. The best part? Some of it crossed the easement line. I now had everything I needed to bring down his backyard empire. But that still wasn't revenge. Not really. Revenge isn't just about getting even. It's about making them feel it. The same way they made you feel it. The humiliation, the rage, the quiet spiral into madness. And Ron? He needed to spiral. I needed more eyes, more angles. So I went full neighborhood watch mode. Started chatting with neighbors I barely knew. Hey, has Ron ever dumped trash on your property? Most of them said no. But 2? They said yes. One of them, a sweet retired guy named Bill, had photos of Ron tossing junk over the fence during the pandemic. The other, a young couple with a toddler, said Ron intentionally flooded their side yard by rerouting his sprinkler lines. Oh, and he screamed at my wife once for walking on the sidewalk, the husband added. I invited them both over for drinks. Laid it all out. Showed them the satellite photos, the permit violations, the backyard disaster. Bill took a sip of his beer and said, So what's the plan, General? Here's what we came up with. Step 1. File a formal city complaint about easement encroachment. Bill had a friend in code enforcement. Not to pull strings, just to make sure it got looked at quickly. Step 2. Report the unpermitted structures. Josh drafted a letter. Technically anonymous, but it had enough detail to raise eyebrows. Step 3. HOA complaint loud and public, with photos, video, and statements from multiple neighbors. Step 4. Bait the trap. This was the fun one. We'd set up a new trash pile on my yard. Just a few bags strategically placed, with a camera hidden in a fake rock, thanks Amazon. If Ron moved even one bag over the line, we'd catch it. Then we'd submit everything, all at once. A symphony of complaint. HOA, city, zoning, code enforcement, civil harassment, all hitting him within 48 hours. A bureaucratic tsunami. But even that wasn't the best part. Because I had one more card. I made a Google account. Threw together a simple blog. Life next to Ron, a suburban horror story. Posted photos, videos, timeline, complaint numbers. Even linked public documents about easement rules. Made it anonymous, of course. Didn't promote it. Just made sure it was searchable by his full name. Ronald P. Lanning. The P stands for petty, probably. And still, it didn't feel done. It didn't feel perfect. Until something weird happened. I got a knock on my door. It was Ron's wife. She looked tired. Not fake tired. So tired. She didn't come to yell. Didn't come to argue. She just asked if we had a minute. We sat on the porch. She said things had been hard. He's not always like this, she said. I didn't say anything, because I didn't believe her. She paused, then said quietly, just be careful. He's been looking through your trash again. And then she left. That night, I sat in my office staring at the plan. I had everything ready. The blog? Ready. The city complaint? Filed. The trash bait? Set. The neighbors? On board. Every angle covered. But something about what his wife said stuck with me. He's been looking through your trash again. This guy wasn't just a jerk. He was obsessed. And if I pushed him, really pushed him, he might snap. Which was fine by me, because I wanted him to feel helpless, just like he'd made us feel. So I leaned back, looked out at the dark, silent street, and whispered to myself, it's time. Revenge starts small. You don't just throw the grenade. You pull the pin. Set it down. Walk away like you've got nowhere to be. Step 1. The bait. I placed 3 large trash bags right along the property line. Not on his side. Not technically. Just close enough to tempt him. Inside? Nothing but shredded paper, some broken IKEA parts, and a brick in each for weight. They looked heavy, annoying, ugly, like prime dumping candidates. Then I positioned the camera. Hidden inside a fake landscaping rock. Motion activated. 4K resolution. Thank you, overpriced paranoia shoppers of the internet. Then I waited. Day 1, nothing. Ron looked out the window. I saw him. Just stared at the bags with his little hawk face. Then went back inside. Day 2, he came closer. Walked along the property line. Scowled. Kicked one of the bags. Didn't move it. Yet? Day 3? Showtime. I checked the footage that night. Caught him red-handed. Dragging 2 bags back over to my side. He even flipped off the camera rock, not knowing it was watching him. I downloaded the footage. Labeled it Ron's Greatest Hits, Volume 1. And sent it to the HOA, the City Code Enforcement Office, the Zoning Board. Attached the original complaint reports and evidence from the neighbors. Titled the email, Pattern of Harassment and Property Violations by Ronald P. Lanning, No Frills. Just fire. Step 2, the zoning complaints. Josh helped me draft the letter. Simple, detailed, official sounding. We listed illegal shed dimensions, fence line encroachment, retaining wall without permit, poured concrete over easement, included GPS data, satellite screenshots, and photos from his very own real estate listing from 2 years ago showing the before and after. People always forget the internet remembers everything. Step 3, the blog. I added a new post. How to weaponize bureaucracy against the pettiest man alive, tagged it with every keyword I could think of: suburban harassment, neighbor trash dispute, easement laws, passive-aggressive landscaping. It started getting clicks. Not a lot, but enough to show up if someone Googled his name. And oh, he would Google it. I knew he would. People like Ron always do. Now, here's where it gets good. The first letter hit his mailbox on a Friday. Code enforcement. Requesting access for inspection. I watched him open it from my upstairs window. He stood there for a full minute, reading it over. Mouth slightly open like someone had just handed him a bill for emotional damages. Then he crumpled it and threw it at the ground. His wife came out a minute later. They argued. I couldn't hear them. But the body language? It said everything. She pointed at the backyard. Then at my house. He pointed back at her. Stormed inside. Slammed the door. Progress. Saturday, I mowed my lawn with the biggest smile I've ever worn. Ron stood in his yard, arms crossed, watching me like a hawk with indigestion. He tried to look calm, but his leg bounced. He kept checking his phone. He knew something was coming. He just didn't know what. Then the HOA letter arrived. Not just one. Two. One for the trash dumping violation. Another for unauthorized modifications to his fencing and patio. I'd filed the second one anonymously, but the evidence came from his own backyard. The HOA doesn't love Ron, turns out. They were waiting for a reason. Now they had one. He stormed into the HOA office the next Monday, according to Bill. Yelled at the receptionist. Threatened legal action. Said something about harassment and neighbors planting evidence. Oh yeah, he was spiraling. But I'll admit, it wasn't all victory laps and long gloating. There were moments. Tiny cracks. Late one night, I stood by the kitchen sink staring at our dead garden. All the flowers gone. Kid's swing set still missing. Shed burned out like a scar. My wife walked in. Put a hand on my shoulder. You okay? Yeah, I said. She didn't believe me. Neither did I. This feud, it had become part of me. And part of me wondered if that's what Ron wanted. To drag me down into the same toxic pit he lived in. I almost backed off. Almost. But then I checked the blog analytics. Someone had clicked the link from Ron's work computer. His name. His company's IP range. He'd seen it. He read everything. And now? He knew. The next morning, I walked outside to grab the paper. Found a dead squirrel on my front step. Perfectly placed. Like an offering. Or a warning. Or both. That was new. So I did what any rational person would do. I checked my cameras. And there it was. 2:41 a.m. Motion detected. Ron. Walking across the lawn. Holding something in a plastic bag. He looked sweaty. Not angry. Not smug. Scared. He dropped the bag. Looked up. Straight at the fake rock camera. Then turned. And sprinted back into the shadows. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't a feud anymore. It was a collapse. Ron was unraveling. And I wasn't done yet. Because the next part? The next part was personal. I pulled up the last phase of the plan on my screen. Opened the folder labeled Final Nail, Operation, Full Exposure. Smiled. And whispered, let's finish this. Ron blinked into the camera at 2:41 a.m. Dropped a bag with a dead squirrel. Then ran. He didn't know the footage was already backed up to the cloud. Multiple copies. Timestamped. Geotagged. Organized in a folder labeled, when he finally snaps. The next morning, I made a cup of coffee and watched it twice. Not because I had doubts, but because I wanted to savor it. He crossed a line. Not a legal one, maybe, but the last one. This wasn't just trash anymore. It wasn't fencing violations or bad blood. It was something darker. The man was unraveling. And that's when I knew it was time to pull the trigger. Step 1, city inspection. I timed the complaint perfectly. 2 separate reports. One for zoning, one for unpermitted structures. Both triggered independent inspections. Different departments, different checklists. Same house, same week. Tuesday, a city truck pulled up outside Ron's place. He tried to act casual. Even walked out with a clipboard like he worked there. But I watched it from my upstairs window. The inspector pointed at his shed, his fence, his patio, then pointed out a printout, the map, the easement line. And Ron? He went pale. He knew. He was busted. Step 2, the drone drop. This one was for the drama. I borrowed a drone from a friend. Printed a full-color flyer showing Ron's trash dumping behavior. Screenshots. QR code linking to the blog. Titled it, Meet Your Neighbor, a brief case study in suburban menace. The drone flew over the block, low and slow, and dropped the flyers in every mailbox on the street. Even taped one to Ron's front door. Neighbors started talking. One woman laughed out loud in her driveway. Another came to shake my hand. About time someone did something, she said. Sweet, sweet validation. Step 3. The anonymous tip. Using a burner email, I sent Ron's employer a copy of the blog, along with one simple sentence. Thought you should know how your employee behaves when he's not on the clock. Now, I didn't know for sure if it would matter. Maybe it'd get ignored. Maybe it'd go straight to spam. But I do know this. Ron stopped going to work. 3 days in a row. Home all day. Curtains drawn. Like a man waiting for the universe to finish crushing him. Step 4. The final HOA complaint. We gathered signatures from 8 neighbors. All of them had stories. Noise. Trash. Harassment. Vandalism. The retired guy, Bill, he even dug up an old email where Ron threatened to make life very uncomfortable for anyone who tattled. We submitted everything. Together. They couldn't ignore it anymore. The HOA sent him a formal violation letter. 3 pages long. Fines. Mandatory repairs. Threat of lien if he didn't comply. And then, the news crew showed up. Yeah, I called them. Local station. Investigative spotlight on neighborhood harassment and code abuse. They interviewed 3 of us. Blurring faces. Changing names. But guess who wasn't blurred? The footage. Drone shots. Junk piles. Burned shed. City inspectors in bright vests. One perfect slow pan across Mount Crapmore 2.0 in Ron's yard. I didn't even have to say a word. The images said everything. Ron came storming out of his house when they were filming. Tried to yell. Tried to say I was the one harassing him. But the reporter? She shut him down. Sir, we have hours of footage showing you trespassing. You're free to make a statement, on the record. He backed off. Red in the face. Hands trembling. He looked around at the neighbors watching him. Nobody waved. Nobody spoke. Nobody helped. He was alone. The next morning, he took down the shed. By himself. Hammering in the heat. Dragging wood to the curb like it was a funeral procession. The day after that, he started removing the patio bricks. His wife left a week later. Suitcases. Kids. Dog. Gone. By the end of the month, a for sale sign went up in his yard. Cash offer. Fast closing. No open house. No goodbye. And just like that, Ron was gone. Victory felt weird. Not empty. Not exactly satisfying. More like air finally leaving a balloon. A slow hiss of tension I didn't realize I'd been holding for months. My wife cried the first night we knew he was gone. Not because she was sad. Because she finally felt safe. We rebuilt the garden. New swing set for the girls. New sheds sturdy, sealed, and up to code. Neighbors we'd never spoken to started waving. One brought cookies. Another offered to mow while we were out of town. Something changed on our street. Not just because Ron was gone, but because we took our peace back. We made noise. We said no more. I kept the blog up. Added one last post. Victory is quiet. Revenge is loud. Choose both. People still visit it. Still leave comments. Some sharing their own neighbor horror stories. Some just saying thanks. I don't regret any of it. Not the time. Not the effort. Not the planning. Because sometimes, petty is justice. And in the suburbs, justice comes with HOA letterhead and drone footage. But most of all, it comes when the trash finally goes exactly where it belongs. Back to the one who dumped it. The for sale sign didn't last long. Ron's house sold in under 2 weeks. No fanfare. No listing photos. Just gone. Rumor on the street is he moved 2 towns over. Some rental. Smaller yard. No HOA. Figures. The day they hauled his stuff out, I watched from my porch. Same chair I sat in when I planned all of this. It felt surreal. Like I was watching the credits roll on a movie I didn't audition for. One of the movers found a broken toilet in the garage and just shook his head. I had to laugh. Ron had officially become a cautionary tale. Life got quiet again. Not boring. Peaceful. I forgot what that felt like. No more cameras. No more paranoia. My girls started playing outside again. My wife replanted the garden. We built a fire pit, held an actual barbecue. Neighbors came, talked, laughed. It felt like a neighborhood again. Every now and then someone brings him up, usually with a half smile. Remember Ron? Like he was just a bad plotline in a long-running sitcom. Like we all survived something weird together. Which we did. And me? I sleep now. No midnight stakeouts. No folders labeled evidence. Trash Goblin edition. I deleted most of it. Kept a few screenshots for the scrapbook. A reminder that justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's patient, calculated, and carried out by people who are tired of being stepped on. I learned something through all this. Revenge isn't about being cruel. It's about balance. Sometimes people cross a line and expect you to stay quiet, expect you to take it. And when you don't, when you push back, they lose control. Because bullies only win if no one fights. I wouldn't say I'm proud of everything I did, but I don't regret it either. Ron tried to make our lives small, ugly, loud. We gave him all of it back, neatly stacked, returned to sender. One afternoon a few months later, I found a package on the porch. No label, no note, just a cardboard box. I opened it carefully. Inside, a clown bust, ceramic, the same one from Mount Cropmore, staring up at me with that ridiculous grin. I laughed so hard I nearly cried. Some part of me hopes Ron sent it. Some weird little white flag peace offering. Or maybe just one last jab. Either way, I kept it, put it on a shelf in the shed. He'll never know it, but it makes me smile every time I see it. The final reminder of the man who thought he could trash my life and ended up taking himself out instead. End of story.